get started. Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, November 4, 2024 Urbandale City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Bodie?
Here.
Harvey Montgomery?
Here.
Kroll?
Here.
McBurney?
Here.
Rosendahl?
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 3, presentations. We have a proclamation for National Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month for 2024, and I'll read that. Whereas the indigenous peoples of the Americas have inhabited these lands for thousands of years, and their rich and diverse cultures have contributed significantly to the history, heritage, and development of our nation. Whereas National Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month is a time to recognize, celebrate, and honor the unique contributions and traditions of Native Americans and Alaska Natives. And whereas the observance of this month provides an opportunity for all Americans to learn about the history, traditions, and contemporary issues facing Native communities, as well as to acknowledge the resilience and strength demonstrated by Native peoples throughout our nation's history. And whereas it's essential that we continue to foster understanding, appreciation, and respect for the diverse cultures and identities of Americans and Alaska Natives, as well as their invaluable contributions to our society. So now, therefore, I, Robert Andewig, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, do hereby proclaim the month of November as National Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month. I call upon all residents to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities that recognize the heritage and achievements and contributions of Native Americans and Alaska Natives. I have signed that. We will move on then to Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda. Does anyone want to address the council this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 5.1 is to adopt the minutes from the October 15 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And then item 5.2 is to adopt the minutes from the October 29 listening session.
So moved.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6 is the consent agenda. Excuse me. There are 18 items for approval on that.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote.
Nicole, mine disappeared. I'm a yes. Oh, here it is. Found it. Maybe. Still disappeared.
We good?
5 in favor.
Okay, that passes. All right, thank you. Item 7 is public hearings. We have 3 public hearings versus item 7.1, a public hearing to consider the lease agreement for an existing monument sign in the street right of way at Westmark Plaza at 2743 to 2819 86th Street. The public notice for this is published in the October 25, 2024 Des Moines Register. Ask if there are any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And to introduce us and start the Steve Franklin show is Community Development Director Steve Franklin, because he has about the next 4 or 5 items on the agenda.
Pretty much
so.
everything tonight.
All right, it's all yours,
Okay.
Steve.
So this first item is a request to essentially renew a lease that we've had for quite some time. The old lease expired in 2022 for a sign that exists out on the 86th Street right-of-way, and so that is the location of that sign right there. This is the Panera Bread, the retail strip immediately to the south, and then the building back here to the back. At the time that these buildings were built, they were all put on separate parcels. And so based on how the sign code works, that means that this building would be able to put a monument sign out here on their property if they wanted to. Panera would also be able to put a sign out here on their property if they wanted to. This building would be able to put something down here at the corner. But at that time, that was off the beaten path. That was unacceptable for the entity that owned the building at that time. And so they approached the city about being able to enter into agreement to put a sign here. So all the tenants on this sign are tenants in this back building. And so city staff went out, looked at it, identified locations of any utilities, anything that might be in the way. We did not find anything. And so that's how the sign ended up in this particular location. And as I mentioned, we had a lease agreement automatically renewed every 5 years, was a 20-year lease that expired in 2022. The building has since changed hands, and so the current owner, which is now Stainborough Realty Company, they're doing business with this building under a different name, but we determined that the lease had expired. We approached them and said, hey, you can either remove the sign out of the right-of-way or you can request a new lease agreement. And they wanted to request a new lease agreement, so that's how this ended up coming before you. The amounts are incrementally a little bit higher than they were when the lease that expired than what they were there. They still increase just a little bit every 5 years. And this would just be basically identical to the previous lease except for the amounts. They would renew every 5 years, and it would be a 20-year lease to maintain the sign that's been there for quite some time. So staff recommends approval of a new lease agreement. Be happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions?
Is 500 a year generally is that kind of just like a general going rate,
I mean,
or is that kind of just
this is
specific?
so unique, there kind of isn't any general
Gotcha.
for
Yeah.
this. So the old lease was a couple of 300s and a couple of 400s. We just increased it a little bit, and the current owner came back with these amounts. Staff reviewed it, discussed it with AJ. We thought these are appropriate. This really isn't a money-making thing.
Mhm.
So that's how we decided on these amounts.
All right, thanks.
We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on the item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve council letter 7949.
Okay, motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Thank you. Item 7.2 is a public hearing to consider the surface water flowage easement vacation for lots 1 and 2 Parade Tower Plat 3 at 12801 to 12961 Hickory Drive. Wow. Can't get it out tonight. All right. This public notice was in the October 18, 2024 Des Moines Register. Is there any objections to that notice is published?
There were none.
That's for a motion to open this public hearing. Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Carby Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Steve?
Okay, this is a request to get rid of an easement here, that you can see highlighted on the screen. That was done with the first plat of the Prairie Tower development. So this is 128th, this is Meredith, this is the existing Fast and Fresh. There's now a daycare that's opened immediately to the north. And this is in association with a pet medical center, the plat and a site plan for a pet medical center to be located up here. That actually was on the October 1st agenda, you might recall that. So this is just kind of a cleanup to be able to keep that process moving through. This was an easement, part of an easement that was affiliated with their detention basin in Plat 1. When Plats 2 and 3 came through, there was a note on those plats that this would be vacated at some future time. Now that we've got the plat for Plat 4 coming through, the detention has all been moved up here to the north in a different location, so we don't need this anymore, so it can certainly go away at this time. And then it would provide access for the user, the pet medical center, that's gonna go right here on this parcel as well. So staff does recommend the vacation of the easement. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Steve on this? All right, we're in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And there, just for the record, there's been a request to waive the second and third readings of this ordinance as well.
That is correct. Yeah, we got that late, and so we weren't able to actually get it on the agenda, but we do have a request to do that, just to kind of keep that process moving and let this project get going.
All right, sounds good. So first, I need a motion on the resolution.
Motion to approve resolution 257-2024.
Motion by Rosendahl. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-17.
Motion by Rosendahl. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of an ordinance for ordinance 2024-17.
Motion by Rosendahl. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And motion to waive the second reading and approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2024-17.
Motion by Rosendahl. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
I think we
Like a
should just keep
well-oiled
it on
machine.
that
That
side.
passes. Thank you, that passes. All right. Item 7.3 is a public hearing to consider overland flowage easement vacation for lots 47, 48, 49, 50, 53, 54, and 55. Located at the various addresses, I won't read them all, on Oak Drive. The public notice for this was published in the October 18, 2024 Des Moines Register, and ask for any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Steve?
So this item actually started with a request from this homeowner, located here at 2911, to build a shed in his rear yard, but there was a 30-foot overland flowage easement. So, as is typical with these, particularly if there's overland flowage or some sort of storm issue going on, we send it to engineering for review. And this is one that's similar to some others we've had in more eastern parts of the city, where there were easements that were created a long time ago, but over time, for one reason or another, the drainage pattern has kind of changed a little bit. And in this particular case, this is a long driveway that goes back to where Dana Brown lives, back behind everything. This is the Carmel subdivision that Denton Homes is doing. And over time, what's really happening, there used to be a pipe that came across to 142nd Street, but now that's been removed and drainage flows in different ways. And essentially what happens is now this drainage is not in this easement anymore. It's up here along the driveway as it comes all the way down here to the east. And then as you get to this lot, it basically kind of comes over and gets back into the easement. So in situations like this, where there's an opportunity to vacate an easement on either side of someone that's requesting a vacation, if we think that maybe this leads to more public hearings down the road and there's no negative effect that we can determine to vacating it, then we're gonna recommend go ahead and then doing it. So the easement portion that would actually be vacated is what you see in this box, this red and white box. We would maintain easements on these two lots that are currently in place, but after a review of the grading and knowing how drainage is going out there, there would be no negative effect whatsoever to vacating the easement across these lots right here. So staff does recommend approval of the vacation. Be happy to answer any questions on this. And we did receive a notice to waive the readings on this one as well.
Right.
Just so he can get his shed built.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve? All right. We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 258-2024.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-18.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of an ordinance for ordinance 2024-18.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to waive the second reading and approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2024-18.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, that takes us to the end of our public hearings. Item 8, planning and zoning items. First is item 8.1, Waterford Point Plat 3 preliminary plat at 142nd Street and Coyote Drive. Steve?
Okay, so this is an area that's about 13 acres. You can see it highlighted here with this outline. This is 142nd Street. This is a plat that was originally approved back in 2022. And code says you've got a year to start building or it expires. And in that situation, sometimes that happens. Developer isn't quite ready to start for whatever reason, so it expired. What happens is if they resubmit a reapplication for the preliminary plat, which has happened in this particular instance, we send it out to all the departments for review again, just like we always do, make sure there's nothing in any of our codes that would change any of the review comments. In this particular case, there isn't anything new. There's just a handful of comments for them yet to address. What is proposed on this is the same as what came through with the original preliminary plat, which is 38 single-family homes with a minimum lot width of 50 feet. So these are some of our smaller lots, which would make them a little bit less costly for people. So that would be a good thing, and they are now ready to start, so they did resubmit that preliminary plat. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of the time extension and be happy to answer any questions.
Steve, I have just a few process questions that I probably should know the answer because I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission before, but so this expired technically like a year ago or so. What do we proactively remind people or?
We try to. Sometimes just if it's really, really busy, we just kind of lose track of it, but we try to stay on top of it and remind them if we can. So we've had a number of them over the years where within a week or two of expiring, they come through and actually ask for an extension. This one actually happened to expire, and so they're asking for it to be renewed. So it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
So they're coming to us, triggers them asking
Correct.
in this regard.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay,
the
and
fact
so
of the matter
it's
is-
a year that they have to
Right.
build or start.
I mean, if in this particular case, if we'd have gone back to Eric and just said, hey, your deadline's coming up, do you wanna file for an extension? He could have, but at the end of the day, there's kind of no difference between if you all would have said yes, given him another year now, or it expired, came back through, resubmitted the plat saying, hey, now we're ready. And so, yes, that's what triggered it. We reviewed it again, make sure everything's appropriate.
So just hypothetically, and I have no problem with this particular situation, but if someone let one expire 5 years and then decided to come back, would we,
Yep, if it, so.
yeah, do the same process?
We would,
or
it'd be the same process, because the first thing we're gonna do is farm it out to everybody, look at it again, make sure there's nothing that needs to change from what the original comments were, and then we're gonna bring it to you and just say, hey, do you still think this is good or appropriate? Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. With that, is there a motion?
Oh, sure. I'll move approval of council letter 7959.
Motion by Carter by Montgomery,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. Item 8.2 is consider the Barrett Estates Plat 4 preliminary plat and final plat at 142nd Street and Waterford Road. Steve.
Yep, this is just simply an exercise. This is Waterford Road, 142nd Street, so the southwest corner of that particular intersection. And this is just simply an exercise in taking what used to be an outlot. Outlots are not considered buildable until you plat them as a buildable lot. And this is the process of now being ready to go ahead and plat this as a buildable lot. So it is 13.13 acres in size. As I mentioned, it's a part of 2 outlots from the original Roble Estate subdivision plat. They were non-buildable, and this is an exercise to make this buildable. We are, in terms of what's this gonna be, the PUD calls for this to be multifamily development. We are talking to a developer that is intending to purchase this property once the plat all gets done and everything, and make these multifamily units, and we're actually talking to them about hopefully being able to make some of those affordable as well. So, we're trying.
Quick question on the topography here. Is the detention basin, I mean, obviously the dirt pile probably will,
Is the detention what?
is the detention basin gonna stay there? And I'm assuming the dirt pile on the top left is gonna be moved around?
Correct. Yep,
Okay,
they'll move all that around, but the basin will remain, yes.
okay, thank you.
Motion to approve Barrett Estates Plat 4 prelim plat subject to conditions.
Okay, motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Motion to approve resolution 262-2024.
We get the votes in the first one? It is. First one passed, right?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Second, the item, motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion. You're getting ahead of me. Oh, see, they don't give me the fancy machine. I have to rely on this. All right, that passes. Moving to item 8.3, the loop at Plum Drive, Plat 1, final plat at 10500 to 10750 Plum Drive. Steve?
Okay, so my last item, so you can look at somebody other than me. This is, you might recall last year, I think, there was a multi-use project. This is where the Home Depot is located here immediately to the west. So this is the process of actually creating the plat on which that multi-use project will be constructed. So there's a total of 3 buildable lots. There's the main lot 3, which is where the residential building will be constructed, and then there are 2 lots up at the front. There's lot 1 and lot 2, and that was part of the deal for making this amendment to the PUD, would be to have a couple of commercial buildings up on Plum Drive, and then the residential back behind. So I think you all remember that project. The 2 lots up front are 1.06 and 1.17. So they are a little bit smaller, but that's all right. Could still get some users in there. And then the main lot is this 10.61 acre lot where the residential will be constructed, and that does also include this parcel over here, which is where some of the amenities would be located. So again, just creating the parcel on which that project will be constructed. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval. Be happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions, excuse me, for Steve on this item?
This won't, like, the Home Depot lot won't connect through a drive to this
Correct.
one, will it? Okay.
That is correct.
Are they getting ready to build?
I think so. You're getting closer, right, Derek?
Yeah, there's two scrapers out there ready to start moving dirt as soon as it dries out, and most of the work will happen next year.
Well, I'm excited to have it get going.
I am too. Very expensive project, and it's, just been waiting to get everything in line to do it, but we're at that point, so.
Good.
I move approval of resolution 261-2024.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, thank you, Eric, appreciate it. All right, item 9, regular agenda items. First is item 9.1, that's to consider the equipment purchase for Public Works pavement marking equipment, and John will answer any questions on this if there are. If you have a presentation, John, or not. But John certainly will answer any questions. So.
John, what if we just save this money and send you out with a spray can and go up and down? Is that gonna work or no? Okay, okay. Motion to approve Council Letter 7955.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
I'm gonna ask if you can name it. I was just waiting for it.
That passes. Item 9.2 is to discuss the Complete Streets program. So, AJ, I don't know if you want to start us off or.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we've had two public hearings, or not public hearings, but public informational sessions in the last several months where we've invited the public, particularly those who might be impacted by any potential changes along the Aurora Avenue Complete Street area from 86 over to 70th. And for those of you, I know we had different conflicts with folks, but the meetings were held. The consultant on the project was here, explained the entire project, answered questions from the audience, and we then set forth the opportunity for you folks to have tonight to discuss among yourselves how you'd like to go about presenting or moving this project along, particularly in light of the CIP committee that will be meeting later this month, and the direction that you'd like to give them about this particular project. Typically what happens with the CIP project, and this is one of them that's been out there, is that we move it into what we call our 5-year programming, where we look at working that into the work, the body of work that we'll be undertaking for a public works type of project such as this, or it will be put into an out year at the direction of either the CIP committee and ultimately through the city council to be considered at some future date and time. As we're preparing that document, as we had previously, it was, I should back up, the previous CIP document was, this item was tabled, taken out and asked for more public input and consideration. We've completed that, so now it really is before you folks for the comments that you might have between each other about your assessment of the two public sessions and how you'd like to direct staff on taking this forward. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd leave it to all of you to have that level of discussion now. We have staff here who can answer any technical questions concerning the project. I think the council is well versed as the scope and the direction of the project, the configuration of the 4 lanes to 3 lanes, the inclusion of bike lanes, etc. So again, John will be happy to answer any questions you might have on the physical layouts of the aspect of the project.
Thank you, AJ.
Well, I'll say that having served on the CIP committee since I joined the council and prior, this has been one of the more difficult, I think, projects that I've had to approve, or not have to approve, but in terms of the amount of feedback that we've gotten, and I really appreciate that we've taken the time to thoroughly discuss this. I guess I still struggle with the amount of negativity that there is in the community related to this project. But I ultimately see this as a safety project and not as a complete streets project in my mind. I mean, that it is, but we have a road that has problems, that has a lot of new drivers, a lot of schools, churches, parks, you name it, there can be conflict. So I feel that, well, I wish there wasn't so much conflict in the community about this, but I guess this is what I signed up for in terms of making the difficult decisions. And I think that this is the best way to address a street that is in need of safety improvements. And so I feel like I'm at a point where I can move forward with putting the project back into the CIP, or I thought we were close to doing it at some point. I don't know where it'll go if we put it back in the CIP, but I guess I feel begrudgingly comfortable, if that's a term.
You're nauseously
No, I'm
optimistic.
nauseously optimistic.
Just to let you know, currently it is in for 2025 in the CIP. So we had moved it back to 25. That's why we're moving forward. So the plan would be to build it next year if everything stays as it is.
I guess, I'm not excited about the amount of negativity surrounding the project, but I feel like we're doing the right thing on behalf of our community in creating a safer traveling way for all forms of modes of transportation. So that's my 2 cents.
Any other thoughts?
I guess my thought, we had talked at length about the traffic and the parking on 70th. And so since October 8th, I started just looking and counting cars, and consistently between 2 and 3 times a day, I also engaged a school board member who was concerned in the same activity. And between the two of us, the most we ever saw was 13 cars, I believe, 17 cars.
Where are you talking about, Amy?
This was on 70th, but I think it's important to note that those were only in very rare situations. For the most part, the majority of those cars were at the very start. They were just south of Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just at the start. So where bikes would hit that, turn onto 70th, turning south onto 70th.
From Meredith?
From Meredith, about 7 to 8 of those cars are typically parked right there.
So nothing
So-
to do with the school?
So you're gonna, right, and you're gonna swing out anyway into regular traffic around them and then back onto the bike lane. So, where we were once concerned about that, really, at this point, there's typically between 2 and 3 cars that are parked on 70th consistently, outside of that one little area. So I felt a lot better about it after kind of really looking at that information.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, it's one of the advantages of living right there.
I think from what I heard at both meetings and in conversations with folks afterwards, the consensus was everyone agrees that they want to see drivers slow down on the road. And they feel like if we can do it with 3 lanes, then that's fine. For whatever reason, when you throw bike lanes in there, that's when people, for whatever reason, begin to get upset about it. And those conversations that I had, it was, okay, well, what if we just did a 3-lane road and didn't call it a bike lane? Would you be okay with that? And they kept saying, we agree that cars need to slow down. So I think while people may not necessarily agree with it as we initially roll into the project. I think in the long term, people will look at this and go, it did accomplish its goal of slowing the traffic down. I think that's ultimately where I land on this is if 3 lanes are gonna slow down traffic, then we might as well use the extra space for something useful. And I feel like that's ultimately what we're aiming for. In a perfect world, if I had, $20 million to throw at the project, sorry, John, I don't. I would just move the curbs and, the inlets all in, and we would just have our 10-foot sidewalk or whatever, our giant sidewalks, and call it good. But that's not feasible, and, we want to be good stewards of taxpayer money, and I just don't think that that's the right solution. So I think the 3 lanes with the bike lanes is ultimately what's going to work out best in the long run.
I kind of have a question for John. Were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you, through that conversation, there were some concerns expressed about 70th and about the intersection at 70th and Aurora, and then at 75th Street, some folks were thinking that we didn't quite get that right. What are your thoughts and Snyder's thoughts and your thoughts reflecting on all of that afterwards?
Sure. Just to start with, 70th and Aurora, we have talked with Snyder Associates about that, and I think Snyder's on the same page, staff, is we do not believe a traffic signal is warranted at the intersection. We think the way it's currently working is the 4-way stop is probably the best for that intersection. You do have a few times where maybe traffic does pick up in those peak times, but you go out there a lot of times of the day, there is very little traffic out there. And once we switch to the 3 lanes, that's gonna make, making your choices on when you can go, when you can't go, the pedestrian movement's easier as well. 75th and Aurora, that is something that we still need to look at. Then again, we haven't gone into what's the next step out of the comments people gave us and what changes can we make. That'll follow through, after tonight if we decide we're moving forward with stuff.
Then another question was, do we have research on the challenges of using sharrows where we've had a lane and then the lane's gone, and so what we have are sharrows, and then maybe we pick up a lane later? I, as a cyclist, hate that I'm riding in a lane and then all of a sudden I don't have a lane anymore. I'm on sharrows. Is there anything out there that speaks to the safety of that's still okay?
Which area in particular?
On 70th, where 70th going north gets too narrow.
Correct.
And you don't have room for the lane anymore, and so we're just painting sharrows. That's the spot. Now, that is not something I heard particularly out of the group. This is a personal concern.
Yeah.
And I do know with e-bikes, that would probably be not as big a deal because e-bikes would be able to climb that hill at enough of a pace to be okay. But is there any path, anything we can do with the side path there to route people, give people a shot away?
I don't think so, because again, we did look at the possibility, could you widen the road, could you do different things? It's one of those things, topography doesn't work in our favor.
Yeah.
That's why normally roads are centered in the right-of-way. This one's not even centered in the right-of-way. They slid things around to make it work. And to widen with the driveways we have next to it, they're already steeper than we would normally design, so they'd only get steeper with trying to widen anything or widen sidewalks out. So it just does not seem physically possible to do that.
So maybe some notice that can be posted as people are cycling in the lane or something. I think we ought to think about that.
We can talk to our
Yeah.
consultant and see if there is some advanced signage or something like that.
That would be cool. And then the last thing I would suggest is just what I thought I heard was that people were really confusing who should be using these bike lanes. And I think we need, and this won't be in the CIP, but I think it needs to be something we articulate as it is as we speak of it in the CIP. These lanes are not intended for grandkids. These lanes are for commuter cyclists and people who really know their way around a bicycle, and maybe some folks with e-cycles, I don't know. But I think that's why we had, I think, a little extra negativity in the second session where that was not made clear, and it was made clear in the first session where there was a lot more I think, satisfaction with the project walking away from the first session than the second. I don't know if other people saw that or not, but I think we need to pay good attention to that and speak to that.
Yeah, and we completely agree. I mean, the intent of the bike lanes are for people that are comfortable. It's not just because there's a lane, if you're on a bike, you have to be out there in traffic, correct? We agree.
Right, and I think there's a public education campaign around that and definitely working with the schools on that. And so I think we definitely need the dialogue with the schools to be robust about this so that can help us.
I think that's a great idea. When we get this done, or about to get this done, I'm sure we'll be doing it during the summer when school's not in session, but to have, and not 4th of July, but to make sure that there's information that goes out right away to the students at the middle school and the high school saying, you know, maybe it's fine you stay on the sidewalk.
No.
We intend to. I envision this having similar rollouts, similar to we did the Cheryl program where we're on Facebook explaining what are Cheryls, look on our website, explaining things, doing very similar things, and sharing information from the school to share out to the parents and students.
I think the other thing I heard was individuals concerned that people would get ticketed if they rode on the sidewalks. Supposedly that happens somewhere in the metro, I'm not sure where, but that was a concern that also came up. So, you know, yes, please ride where you feel the most comfortable.
Yeah. So anyway, those are some thoughts I had related to this.
All right. Any comments?
When we have minor, I guess I would call like the 75th Street left turn like a minor adjustment. When we have things like that would be minor adjustments, is that something that would throw off the timeline for how it's currently placed in the CIP? Okay.
Nope, that is fairly minor. What I envision is we will likely shoot for having final plans done around the end of the year, come to council in January to go out to bid, and then we would receive bids in February. And as we said, we got to do this when school's not in session as far as Aurora and around the 4th of July. So, you know, you got the June to August without that week in there. So, I mean, we like to bid early so they can get into people's schedules, but there's still a pretty good window before they will do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Is there sufficient approval already in the CIP for you to go ahead and do that?
Again, if tonight, if everybody's on board, that is our normal policy. If something is in 2025, we're already going forward intending to let that early in the year and build it in 25. I would say the only thing that could derail it is through the CIP process, and then if council happens to change their mind on approving the CIP, or again, when we ask to go out to bid. But right now, we're under the impression we are moving forward unless we hear differently.
Another thing I was thinking about is that folks were mentioning inconsistency of speed on 70th, going from a 25 to a 35 or 35 from 25. Is that something that has to be tied to this project, or can we make that change at any point?
We can make that at any point, but that was part of it, yes, to lower the northern part to 25. Yep.
I guess I feel like to establish consistency, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to think about that as like a more accelerated part of the project, because if we make the speed consistent on 70th and we get folks used to that, that provides less risk for when we're doing another change later down the road, where hopefully folks will have slowed down. I guess there will be still people screaming through, but
Right, what I'd recommend is there's a couple ordinance changes. We have the speed limits, then we need to change the parking to some no parking right at Aurora, because once you go to that 3-lane, there's not room for parking. So I would think we'd do that all at once, and yes, that could be done ahead of time.
Okay.
The only caveat I have about this is we have told these folks that they have 2 other opportunities to speak to us on this. So even while we're thinking, yes, let's, in the draft CIP, let's put it in, I think we got to be clear that folks might still come and speak to this, and we need to be prepared to listen to that.
Absolutely.
Correct. But just to give a comparison, let you know, in the previously approved CIP, like 142nd Street reconstruction is in there. we're still moving ahead like that's gonna stay. So every CIP, the stuff that's in the following year, we have to be working on it. So we just keep working up, and unless something comes up and we're told to stop, we keep moving forward, thinking everything's going ahead.
Yeah, that makes
Knowing that the public could come out and speak on a project.
Great, yeah, we just need that clarity. That's super, thanks.
So should we be, or what do people feel? I mean, do we need to do specific notice? I mean, it's not a public, well, it is a public hearing, I guess, for the CIP, for this committee
Yeah.
and for the council, but drawing attention to the fact that we're gonna be voting on this, do we have a list of people that attended that we need to notify? Or is the fact that we told them it was coming
I think that's good.
sufficient?
I think so. We sent out
Yeah.
the original notices for the outreach meetings, and anybody who was there heard that we would be, as Pat said, be voting on this a couple times.
Yeah, and we let them know the process.
Yeah, we
I
talked
think
about that at both meetings.
both
And the
meetings in some
video
detail.
is on our website, that anybody else that wasn't at the meeting could watch and learn that as well.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to call out that was talked about a lot, that I agree changing this road in Aurora specifically in front of the middle school won't solve. I think we really need to get with the school about the middle school queuing situation, because it sounded like it was just a mess. And I mean, changing the road won't fix that. We need to talk, there needs to be something figured out, because it sounded like it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, I mean, this isn't part of this project, but yeah. There
Yeah,
needs to
but
be
we've been
something
talking
done.
about wanting to meet with the school board. I just think that would be an item.
Yeah, that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And AJ and I have had, numerous discussions with Rosalie and Jason on that too, but, and I think they're very well aware of it. I think you heard Jason's comments at the second meeting too. I think he's very well aware of it. So.
Yeah. I mean, because there, is there an opportunity for signage, no queuing, or, any ways that we can potentially help that too?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not something we can solve here tonight, but
Right.
it's worth exploring.
I mean, I take to heart Jason's comment that this is a challenge that you have in every school building across the nation. I mean,
I think if you put a no queuing sign, they will come to your house and take care of it at your house.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any further comments on that?
Thanks for this time to talk about
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the support. This is one that's been, we've been working on for quite a while, so.
Yeah, and thanks to engineering for doing that outreach piece. That was very important. Thank you.
All right, so you have everything you think you need at this point, John?
That's the direction
All right.
I needed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks.
sorry, one more question, sorry.
Just stay there, John. Just stay there.
Well, the parking along the streets, have we ever kind of, I know you had done some looking at where are people parking when on 70th, but just generally, is that something we can study at some point? Basically say, do people actually, where do people use the parking, and is there parking along the street in any of those areas that doesn't actually make sense anymore?
We can, I just know, when the church on the east side tried to eliminate a little bit on each side of the driveway, the entire neighborhood came out and was adamantly against it. That's why, from the beginning, I haven't wanted to eliminate any parking there.
That's fair.
So, it just, from past experience, it's felt like it's needed by the people that live along there.
Okay, maybe we just keep that as a thing in our back pocket, just in case we do get issues with folks saying, hey, we're trying to use these lanes and it's just becoming problematic to jump in and out, and how does that all?
Yep, and we'll definitely be monitoring once we open things to see how things flow and how they work. And with the bike riders that we have here, will also be letting us know how it works, so.
Thank you.
yeah, those driveways are just so short on 70th.
All right. That takes us to the end of our agenda then, the regular agenda. First, mayor and council items. Bridget? do you have anything tonight?
We've had quite a lot of activities since our last council meeting, and just wanted to shout out our amazing staff again for Project Uplift. This is the first time I've actually been able to participate in the actual day, and it's just a fantastic event to bring folks together in our community. Followed later that evening by the Trunk or Treat, another fantastic event that the police department puts on. And then we all came out to my neck of the woods for the listening session and hung out with our friend Tim. And don't.
Rob.
What?
Rob.
And Rob.
Yeah, don't forget Rob.
Well, but I thought the presentations that staff did were really good, and I don't want the attendance at that particular session to reflect on me or the process at all, because I think we should still continue to do these. There was just, with Halloween and elections and everything, I think there was a lot going on last week. So thank you. Please pass on to Lion Tim. Thank you for attending. And Rob. So I just, it was a great session, but, we had Tim. So thank you, though, to staff. There's always something going on with DART. We have a big meeting tomorrow where we're supposed to kind of all put our cards on the table, and Bob and I have been talking a lot. Bob's been very engaged in the process of trying to come to some agreements with the city of Des Moines. I don't feel like we're going to end up submitting letters to withdraw, but I think we're going to really push the line of getting Des Moines to understand that the suburbs are very serious, that they uphold their commitment as we uphold our commitment to the funding formula and the governance. So that'll be a really fun meeting tomorrow. That's just our regular commission meeting. We had a 3-hour workshop, I think, last Monday. I don't know, same old stuff, different day. We're in a very rough spot, and I think we're gonna squeak through it, but stay tuned. I know Amanda sent us all an email with some follow-up from that presentation, which I thought was great today, and I may have answers to your questions if you have them or know who to get them, so just stay tuned.
All right, thanks, Bridget. Pat?
Ditto all the thank yous for all of the wonderful events, and those presentations were just excellent. And I hope staff doesn't feel bad that only 2 people were there, because I personally benefited a lot from getting to see those different presentations, and I bet I'm not alone on that. So I think it wasn't just an audience of 2. I think there were more than that present. The Walnut Creek Watershed Management Authority's strategic planning process is still ongoing. The thought that has occurred to me here is that that's really a more important process than we might even think when we recognize that the MPO, for example, really can't do water work so much anymore. That's kind of been shifting. So tried to talk at that strategic planning meeting about really making sure that we all recognize the regional importance of that work. And they were originally thinking about regional projects, then they started thinking about more projects that were output-based, this many acres of this many acres of that. I think they're going back and just having additional thoughts to be pulled together. We had some good conversation at the meeting, and Kristen was there and a good contributor, and so see what happens there. I did get a privilege to go to the Greater Des Moines Conservation Partnership meeting last week. This is a group that really consists of mostly agency people in the city of Des Moines that work primarily in the Des Moines River Greenbelt, but these are all the habitat people. And there are resources available that we might not be aware of that I'm going to talk to Jan about. Some of it's small, some of it's larger, and meeting next week with someone from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Some of the programs are built around need groups that we don't qualify for, but there are other resources available. And so some of this work that we have ahead of us for natural resources management, habitat preservation, restoration, those kinds of pieces, there may be more resources than we know. So that was kind of a cool thing. And I think that's about all I have to report on.
All right, thanks, Pat. Amy?
All I have in addition to that was donuts from Donut Land. It was great to see everyone. Yeah.
Best ribbon
otherwise-
cutting for a long time, right?
That's the charcuterie place.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all I got.
Blake?
I feel like we've had several good ones, because there was that Lego one too.
The Lego
I
one
really
was
like the
pretty good.
Lego one.
Just to add to Bridget's call-outs, we had a good fall cleanup at the Arboretum. That was a lot of fun, pulling those leaves in. Granted, there probably are equal, if not more, leaves on the ground now. But echoing the thank you for the staff on the listening session presentation. One of the things that I was thinking about, as we were talking about Aurora and 70th and street projects and storm sewer and everything like that, in the situations that we're going to be ripping a street up to do storm sewer and everything like that, have we thought about when we're re-putting that street down, what kind of traffic calming measures for residential streets may look like for those? Because when Clive had the road closed to get to the Clive Mercy Clinic, I had to cut through Clark really frequently, and they've got those 2 traffic circles, and then they've got the retention basins on either side of the road, but every now and then the curbs come out and then go back in and things like that, to just generally, and my wife even commented when she was driving through there, she's like, why do I feel like I need to go so slow? And so that got me thinking. I was like, well, is there an opportunity to provide, because folks ask for stop signs in their residential areas all the time, is there a way that we can reconstruct those streets in such a way that might calm traffic a little bit better?
I think we can take a look at options.
Yeah.
We have not looked at that, and we can try to come up with what a policy would look like.
Excellent. And then the only other thing I had is just something to think about in the future. I was talking with a high school teacher at Urbandale that I'd spoken with prior. He's part of the government class, or he teaches government at the high school. And I went and talked to their class last year about local government and, what does the city do, and, why it's important that you pay attention to local government, things like that. And I ran into him a couple weeks back and he said, well, if you want to come to my class, let me know, and love to talk to you. I think that feels like a good opportunity, not just at Urbandale, but we could see if Waukee government classes are interested. Just kind of put a little test balloon out there for us to see if that would be of interest of anybody to talk about in the future. Do we want to talk to government students at high schools?
Or elementary kids.
Or yeah, say Bob goes to talk to elementary kids all the time, so.
Yeah.
We've offered up staff a number of times to at least the Urbandale schools for different disciplines, if you will. And so we've had, we do, the police are there with the program that we run. That's mostly at the grade school and the middle school. I know I've spoken to the government class a couple of times, never been invited back, so that tells you something. And then, yeah, I started one of my stories and they all left. The bell rang and they all ran out of the room. But at the same time, we can certainly make that available to all the school districts if they have questions about any of the activities that we do. And if you're all volunteering, we'll put your names on that list as well.
Sure.
Well, I know Violet would absolutely love me to come to her government class this semester. Nothing would make her happier, so.
You need just to show up someday.
No, I think it's fantastic. And, in the era of division that we have in our country, I think it's really important that people understand the responsibilities of the level of government and what an important role we as city council and city government play in delivering your basic needs?
We'll get a message out to them. I'm going to volunteer all of you now.
Sounds good. That's all I got.
Larry?
One thing I'll bring up is the Urbandale Downtown Master Plan has a survey that I know Derek's posted out on social media. Just giving your thoughts on what you want to see in our revitalized downtown area. I can tell you that don't be surprised from some of the comments I've received. For some reason, people think this is a great place to put a pool. So it was
Okay.
interesting to hear that, but yeah, so don't be surprised if some of those responses say pool, and that's it.
I had a great conversation with my 19-year-old about
About a
what-
pool?
No,
Oh.
no, not at all, about downtown Urbandale, and it was neat to hear how someone younger envisions what that space could look like. So that's actually what informed and created our survey responses.
That's actually awesome, yeah. And then I had somebody ask me, speaking of pools, we have the agreement with Clive on their public pool. They were asking, is there anything in Waukee that we can partner with them on for the Far West residents? And
Stay tuned for election results tomorrow night for their bond referendum.
I was like,
If that does go through, I suspect we would probably be able to get into a similar agreement.
yeah, okay. And then, yeah, like Bridget just mentioned, there's an election tomorrow. Some folks may have heard about it, but yeah.
Yeah, don't
Get out
forget
and
to
vote.
vote.
No, I'll be there before the sun rises.
All right. Thanks,
That's all I
Larry.
got.
Thanks, Larry. Good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks.
I have just a few things I want to point out. In addition to what everybody else has already mentioned, thanks for mentioning those things. But again, we have a busy week ahead before we meet again. I do want to mention tomorrow, I'll be at a meeting 7 o'clock tomorrow morning at the partnership. There's a kind of a task force been pulled together of some folks, again, surrounding some of regional issues. And so, I mean, these discussions are happening in different areas, and there's trying to just keep those discussions going. And it's not really anything that's going to resolve anything, but just having an arena to talk about. That's all.
I guess in that regard, Bob, I hope that you underscore where the suburbs are coming from. I mean, I think you have really good understanding, and I think some of the non-governmental members of the partnership don't really understand our role. So I trust that you will not roll over to that.
Let's put it, the discussions are very similar to what's been happening at DART, so
Yep.
we'll put it that way. So
Have fun.
Yeah, so, and then I'll come to noon with you to do it at DART too, so. So, I mean, yes, there's no surprises there. I'll keep you filled in, but that's just, it's how it started but really the same type of discussions, and a lot of the same folks are on the table, so just want to make you aware of it, though. AJ and I will be meeting with the partnership on Wednesday too, I think. right?
And I'll be on my best behavior.
We do have the Employee Service Awards on Thursday. Want to remind people of that. Make sure you can make an effort to attend, and then next Monday morning, 8:30 is our Veterans Day community event here as well. So, just wanted to highlight all those. And with that, I also want to mention, AJ mentioned it in his weekly summary, but that we've also been invited to participate in the Metro Coalition. So, so I think we'll get more information out. But at this first blush, we've been looking to see how we can have a seat at the table during the legislative session, and this is a way for us to, I think, to effectively participate in a very cost-effective manner. So we'll have a formal, I think we're gonna have to have a formal resolution to approve that, but I just wanna make you aware of it. We're moving forward, we'll get the cost and the information. But it's something I think would be good for us to be part of, so. All right.
Bob, that reminded me of the Metro Advisory Council and the Halloween survey that
yes.
got put out today. I heard from Derek that it's been wildly popular already today.
Yes.
Over 500 and some responses.
Yes.
So I've spread it on my social media, personal and city council, and
Yeah.
in some of the school groups
Make
that
sure
I'm
to
in.
share
So,
it so you can get it out.
and I'm encouraging people to take their own cities survey, like Clive and West Des Moines. I know both have them out. I'm sure other communities do too, but I know those two are out right now.
And then we'll compile all that information and talk about it at MAC, so. Right, do you wanna-
Yeah, I was just gonna say, they should be only doing their own.
It's not like, fenced or whatever you do.
Right.
Axios Des Moines also did one,
Yep.
so that one's another one to look at.
There's a lot of opinions, especially after the chaos of last week.
All right, we do have a closed session item. I'd ask for a motion to closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.51I to discuss the
moved.
position of the city manager.
Second.
Motion by Bodie, second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote.
Oh, sorry, I closed out my